Welcome into another year of Pioneer basketball with Pioneer coach Devan Carter. A Pioneer basketball team that has opened up through the first 6 games in non-conference play at 5-1, doing a lot with what they have done as they have always done. A lot of press and a lot of transition offense as well. It's a Pioneer team that has opened up at 5-1. They also rank in the top 3 now in the D2 SIDA poll as well. We welcome in Pioneer coach Devan Carter, a Pioneer basketball team that I think for a lot of teams coming in year after year, like, well, I don't know, we got to have some people step up, we have to have this. But you get Sydney Wilson and Casey Johnson back, and what comfort level did you have entering this season with those two returning?
I had a comfort level with Sydney, more so because, she was cleared a while ago, and, she had been jogging, doing some things, running and cutting. With Casey, it was a different comfort level just for the mere fact of, I didn't know if she was going to play again. And I told her the other day, I was so proud of her because not only has she come back, but she knew everything that we were doing, when she stepped back in that locker room. She had watched, she'd seen, she'd asked questions. And so both of those kids have been a veteran presence for us, and I felt comfortable in the fact that I knew who they are. Like, I know who they are as kids. I mean, they're tough kids. They're competitive. Like, if Casey has a bad shooting game, she's going to be in the gym the next day doing form shooting, getting up shots. That's why she's one of the best three-point shooters in college history. So Sydney Wilson the same way. So I was very comfortable because I knew that no matter what the situation was, those kids can adapt.
You knew that you had some question marks as well, especially your bigs.
Yes.
I think that was a concern for you. But there's some people that have stepped up for this basketball team, very early especially. What have you liked about some of the youth and some of the new kids that have come in to add some veteran leadership?
Yeah, the thing is, going into the year, I was actually more so concerned about our guard play. We have some bigs that for some reason didn't make it to the season, and so we got thin at that position kind of sooner than I expected. And so going into the year, I felt like, if we can make shots, we're going to be okay. Well, little do I know, and because I don't know nothing, we're shooting the ball really well, and then we've had players like Maddie Sutton and Casey step up, in the post for us, and so. Obviously our strength right now has been, being able to penetrate, drive and kick, and knock down shots. But I felt like going into the year, we're teaching a new scheme defensively, change some things because, we're not as athletic as we have been in the past. And that's been kind of an adjustment, but the kids have bought into it, and I'm really pleased with how we've made those adjustments. I'm really pleased with how our guards and our post players just stepped up as well.
You brought up a stat to me before this show, and you mentioned the fact that top 10 in transition offense, top 10 in threes taken. And is that okay with you? Are you okay with what you've seen from your team?
I am, yeah. And the thing about it is that when you have shooters, you got to let them shoot. You can't take shooters and try to turn them into, elite drivers or something like that. I think with this team, because we do have a lot of, volume shooters and kids that can make shots, I'm okay with that. The one thing that, I've always wanted to do and to make a staple of our program is to be elite in transition. And I think that Mia Long and Elle Hutchinson, and, they bought into that of pushing the basketball. I told them if we have to run sets every time down the floor, that's a terrible way to play. It ain't fun. And we want to get up and down and run, and they've pushed the basketball at an elite level. I think Mia Long has bought into being a more well-rounded point guard. Some of the assists that she's had this year has been, ridiculous. Elle Hutchinson, the same thing. Being elite and pushing the basketball. And so as you look at our points per game, as you look at our shooting numbers, they're a lot better because we're getting out and we're playing faster.
And then all of that, then you do have Mia Long returning. And, you've already kind of touched on it. She's different. She's a different player, and I think she's taken that leadership role to a new level.
Yeah, and you know what? She told me this summer, we had a conversation this summer, and she told me that she wanted to be more of a leader. And I told her, well, to do that, these are some things that you got to do. And I challenged her, and she's accepted that challenge. The three people that can't have a bad day in practice are the head coach, your point guard, and your best player. And I can challenge me along. And I think when people see her being challenged, then they say, man, if he's challenging her, then he'll challenge me too. And so her leadership and ability to accept coaching has been huge this year. I think she's mentally tougher than she was last year. I think she has been a leader for us. And I think at the end of the day, she's been a better basketball player. Right. There have been games this year where she's just completely taken over the game. Right. And then there's other games where she's just been a nuance on defense. And so really proud of her growth. And I think our team, has rallied around not only her, but our upperclassmen as well with that experience.
A Pioneer basketball team that has opened up the season somewhat on fire. And you opened up very early in the year on the road in the Conference Carolina South Atlantic Conference Challenge. Saw a couple of different challenges, and I think you joked. I think the Belmont Abbey game, you got stuck in the half-court offense a little bit too much, and that wasn't a whole lot of fun for you, but you able to pull away there, and then a King game that was very similar as well, I think, and we're able to pull away in those games. Do you see two very similar challenges that opening weekend?
Yeah, the opening weekend is always funky because you don't know what's going to be thrown at you. Yeah. The one thing that we did know going into the Belmont Abbey game is they've been so good, over the past few years. I just kind of thought to myself, well, surely he's not going to change anything. I mean, they've been so good at what they do. And so the reason why that game is important for us is because Belmont Abbey is going to win 20, plus games every single year. And so Coach Williams does a great job down there, and we knew that that's a win that can carry weight as far as strength of schedule and everything else. You look at them this year; they've got some big wins on the road this year against SAC schools, and but we knew we had to make shots, and we knew we had to contain their post play, and we knew it was going to be a defensive battle. Mm-hmm. And so we get in, I think halftime it's like 18-15 or something like that, and a football score, and in the second half, we just found a way to make stops and put a couple of runs together. And although they, made a run there at the end, we were able to hold them off. And then you go play King, and King's a totally different team than they were last year. In the mere fact of they have one of the most improved players in the region, Trinity Lee, and she probably come in a SAC and be all SAC kid, and she lit us up. And then they played a funky style with the 1-3-1 and different things. And we didn't make shots early, but, that second half we were able to get going and were able to speed the game up and were able to pull away with that one. So a lot of stress and relief after that first weekend because you got two opponents that are well coached and really good teams. So those wins were big for us because King's going to win a lot of games this year as well.
A big weekend for the Pioneers, no question, to start the year. And then Clayton State comes in. And when you talk Clayton State, you're always talking an NCAA regional opponent. You're always talking about a team that is ranked #1 in the country at some point, and that bar. They are that bar. We're going to take a look at the highlights of Tusculum and Clayton State here in this opener. And I think for you had to come out confident, but for you, I know you, and so you were nervous as all get out against this team. What is it about Clayton State? What is the mystique of Clayton State that brought to you guys on that particular night?
Well, it's a program that's won a national title. It's like you said, it's a program that's been ranked #1 in the country. It's a program that Tusculum hadn't had a lot of success against, and they're a Peach Belt school. Obviously, last year we played them and beat them at the buzzer. But they're an elite program, and they're just consistent. They're consistent year in, year out, and that's where we want to get our program to. And so coming in, I think they had just beaten Wingate. And had a big weekend down at Anderson. And I thought that was one of the teams that rivals us in the press. Mm-hmm. They do it just as well as we do, and it was just going to be a matter of who could outlast who. I think going into the game, though, our kids really understood what they were looking at. And I think last year, we got in the moment and kind of took a step back until we were able to close it out. But I think this year they were dead set on, having something to prove. And I think we came out and we made some shots.
I think it may have been the loudest Pioneer Arena has been over the outside of the Tusculum Carson Newman showdown. But and I think you guys you built that energy through the game too.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I tell the girls all the time, you want people to come and watch you, you want people to support you, then you owe them your effort. And if you play hard, people are going to rally around you. And so, you have an instance like when Mia Long makes that move right there. That's the loudest that I've heard Pioneer Arena. And at the end of the day, you look at our bench and the enthusiasm that they bring. There's nothing better than a team that plays together and plays for each other.
And you saw that, the transition, it's a tight game, to that point for the most part, and then you just rattle off well, they're trying to come back. I say tight. I think your team is playing tight because they're coming back. Mia makes the play. You score, the 11 points in 31 seconds or something like that. And I think those are the type of momentum plays that this team will thrive off. I would hope much of the year. You win this game against Clayton State, you go on the road, you lose for the first time, but you get the win against Georgia College, which I thought was impressive. You're playing at the massive Convocation Center, which is beautiful. Yeah. And then North Georgia presented a nice little challenge for you.
Yeah, and you know what? I told the girls after the game, the North Georgia loss was good for us. You never accept losing, but we just didn't play well. Right. And so, people ask me like, man, how do you feel? That was a tough one. We just didn't make shots. And they did. And they shot it at a crazy rate. I went back and watched the film. Those shots were contested. I felt like there were some details that we needed to clean up. And we cleaned up those details, with our week in practice. And after that loss, I don't think I've ever felt as good after a loss as that one right there, because I simply know that we can play better. And I know that on our best day, that we can play with anybody in this region, North Georgia, anybody. So after that loss, we learned from it. We cleaned up some things after that loss. But to go into that huge facility and split is not ideal, but we got to win. And anytime you can win on the road, you got to take them.
Pioneers go 1-1, so you lose for the very first time, and then you come back. You're seeing highlights now of Johnson and Wales, and I think a Pioneer team that needed to come out and flex its muscle very early, and you were able to do that. Got off to a very good start.
Got off to a great start, made some shots early. I think that, with this ball club, we start making shots, and all of a sudden, it's crazy how it works, but your defense becomes better. Yeah. And you see the kids, Brianna Dixon has been shooting the ball really well for us. Elle Hutchison has been a spark off the bench for us. Any time that you can go in and put up 100 points on a team and get 90 possessions, then that's how we want to play. And we were able to utilize our bench. We were able to, play some kids and then coach them this week from the film. Yeah. I think that's always a good part of it is, kids get opportunities and they want to play more, and then they get the opportunity. With playing time comes coaching. And so we were able to coach some kids up this week because they have the responsibility of playing. And as a coach, it's great.
All 12 players who saw action scored at least 5 points. Aaliyah Miller had 20 in the contest. Maya Belton added 14. Career best in rebounds as well. And I think you needed to see that from your bench and to give them some confidence.
For sure. And that's I tell my kids all the time, my ideal situation is to play 10, 11 kids. Mm-hmm. I mean, and honestly more if we could. But they dictate that. And, anytime that you can get into a ball game and play that many kids and get max effort out of each kid, that makes your team tough to beat. And so I think our kids are starting to embrace that. Maya Belton has had a phenomenal 2 weeks of practice. Mm-hmm. And I've got to find minutes for her because she's been exceptional in the past 2 weeks just with her effort. You look at, we're up in this game by quite a bit, and she's diving on the floor for loose balls, with like 30 seconds to go in the game. And you have to reward that effort. So our kids, I tell them all the time, you earn the right to play every single day. And we've got some kids stepping up and doing that.
Pioneer team put up 109 points against Johnson and Wales. The first time they'd scored that many since Virginia Intermont, 117 back in 2009. But the fun time is over. Now it's conference time. We'll talk about that when we continue. As LR and Catawba come to Pioneer Arena this week, we're back with more of our Pioneer Basketball Show after this on the Pioneer Sports Network.
Family.
Food's here!
What's it mean to you?
Got lunch.
To us, it means the people you care about, look out for, and love. Even if you'd never let them hear you say it.
Hey, you're eating hummus?
What's wrong with humming?
Here at Ingalls, we have everything you need to gather around the table and give each other a hard time. Because that's what families do. Ingalls, all the ingredients for family.
Johnson.
Welcome back into the Pioneer Basketball Show with Pioneer coach Devan Carter. Tusculum LR, Tusculum Catawba. That is this week. That's what stands in the way for the Pioneers. Get off to another good start in South Atlantic Conference play. And Madeline Hardy and Kennedy Waite stand in the way for the Pioneers from the Lenore Bears. And a feisty team. You know what you're going to get out of the Lenore Bears. You're going to get a team that wants to come in and just beat you up physically.
Absolutely. And, Hardy, I tell people this all the time. Hardy is a post player who is one of the most improved players in the league. She actually went to my rival high school, and somebody told me about her. And at the time, she was like 5'9". And then the next thing I know, I turn around, she's 6'1". Missed the boat on that one completely. That's on me. Yeah. But a really improved player. Plays hard, physical, will beat you down. Had some monster games this year. Sack player of the week. And then Kennedy Waite hit 5 threes against us in the first quarter last year. And an elite shooter, got a closeout tour with high hands, and they're probably the most well-prepared team, when it comes to scouts and stuff like that. They're going to know what you're going to do, and they're going to try to take it away. So it's really important for us to come out and execute and really lock into the details of it. We have to be elite with our screens. We have to be elite with our passes and making pocket passes, and then we got to keep the ball out of the paint. So our work's going to be cut out for us, and we're going to have to bring our A game because they're a very good basketball team.
It seems as if this will be a possession type game. Every possession you must at least finish or at least get a very good look per possession, because you're not going to get many good looks per possession. Although that's what you're trying to change. You want to get this thing into a transition game.
Absolutely, and I think that. I think the great thing about it is that, obviously last year they came here and we were in a really, really tight ball game, and we were able to make a run in the second half. But I think that our kids kind of, they know what to expect because they've been here for a while. And, we at first, when I first got the job, it was like LR was the mythical place to go win at. And so our kids have had success going down there playing the last few years. But then LR has always come back here and given us a scare of our life every time they come here. So, our job is to get that game moving up and down. I mean, we want to play an elite pace. We want to make depth a factor, and we want to try to get that possessions in the 70s and 80s.
It's a rare winning streak for the Pioneers that they own against the Lenore Bears. See if they can continue that when the Pioneers take on LR on that Tuesday night. Now, you've got Catawba. They're off to a 4-0 start. Tasia DeShazoke will come in this coming weekend on Saturday following Thanksgiving. And I think what is going on there is a whole change, because it's a new attitude. It's a new life. And so Catawba presents a totally different type of challenge for you this week.
Totally different. Catawba, in my estimation, is probably the most improved team in the league, which when Coach Baxter got that job, I knew that was going to be the case. I knew it was going to happen. He's a really detailed guy. He's a good basketball coach, and you always say the team takes on the personality of their head coach. Well, when you look at Catawba right now, that is Terrence Baxter. The enthusiasm, the toughness, the grit. And then you look at some of their scores, like they are blowing people out. Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with his recruiting. A lot of it has to do with the toughness that they play with, and so we're going to have a totally different challenge because they're going to they're going to play like we play. They're going to get up and down. They're going to pressure. They're going to rebound the heck out of the ball, and so contrasting styles for us this week. So we're going to have to be able to pivot. Our last few years against Catawba has been bloodbaths. Yeah. I mean, it's been really tough ball games. So we're going to have our A game. And a testing and trying week for us this week, and it's going to tell us a lot about our basketball team.
We're not going to get into it a whole lot because it's not the next game for him anyway, but it is going to be the next game. Talia Barnes leads the league in rebounding, and they're also second in the league in defense, so it's going to be a very tough challenge for this team. However, you also have three that have emerged and might be along, once again, leading you in scoring. We touched on them early. Sydney Wilson, Casey Johnson. You got the big three. How big do they need to be for you as you open up conference play with some of these players that may not understand what's about ready to happen this week?
They got to be huge. And, you know, the thing about it is that, you know, Sydney, Casey, Mia, there's not an experience that they're going to come up against this year that they haven't been through. So, you know, I think that's always comforting in the fact that you got some experienced kids, but they're going to have to be big for us. You know, I tell Mia Long, I tell Casey, I tell Sydney, you know, they're a huge reason why our program is where it is right now.
Yep.
And, you know, that work that they put in, the sweat that they put in, we don't want that to go in vain. And I want them to be rewarded for their sacrifice and their effort. But getting off to a great start in conference is always big. Last year, we started out in the league 0-2 and had to, you know, dig ourselves out of a hole and ended up with that 4 seed. But, you know, we've got to get off to a better start this year, and it's imperative because the games are at home, and you got to protect home court. So they're going to have to be big for us this week and at the start of the year because, you know, a lot of our games second half of the year are on the road, and so we got to take care of the ones at home first.
That home week begins this week as well. Lenore Ryan on Tuesday, Catawba on Saturday, following the Thanksgiving Turkey Day Fest. Or feast, however you have that. A Pioneer team that has opened up 5-1 to begin the season, as we'll see if Coach Devan Carter's side can continue to play as well as they have gotten off to a great start. Probably will. You can always check it out through TusculumPioneers.com and watch the games when they are at home and even on the road as well. Just check out the same website, TusculumPioneers.com. He's Pioneer coach Devan Carter. Thanks to all of those behind the scenes here at the Pioneer Sports Network, Nick Forsberg and Zach Hartle for their time in directing through our shows this week. I'm Brian Staten. Happy Thanksgiving and go Pioneers.